He could pick the ankle up and try to drive through him the other way. It doesn't do that. Mostly, I think, because he's probably exhausted in that particular moment.
Dowling probably already thought he had the 4 points on the near fall earlier, and then you shake that frustration off and you don't score there. A really frustrating loss for Caleb Dowling at 157. So here's the 165, another ranked battle. Number 15, Cael Carlson against number 22, Peyton Hall. Hall, an All-American in 2022 out of Chester, West Virginia, 10-2 this season. Carlson, a transfer from Minnesota, two-time state champion in high school, 6-2 on the season, a couple major decision wins. Tough bout on Friday for him. He was pinned in the second period by Keegan O'Toole, Missouri, who's number 1 in the country. How about that weekend for Carlson? You get O'Toole and then Hall in the back end of that.
Well, O'Toole's pretty good, so.
Yep. Last time we saw Hall, a technical fall in the second period in the title bout of the Shorty Hitchcock Open. One of the 4 West Virginia wrestlers to win an individual title at that event.
You know, and I think he's kind of trying to find himself again, too, right? I mean, I don't think he feels like he's been wrestling as well as he'd like to. And
well, when last we saw Hall here, he was pinned by Duke at the end of the quad a month ago, and talked to Tim Flynn about this week, and he said he's actually gone back and watched older videos of older matches where he wrestled well in previous years and made some adjustments to his pace, to his intensity, and to his movement. I'm not sure that we've quite seen that in the first minute and a half here.
Well, there's no problem with that part of it. I think some of the thing with the movement was he was just allowed out of position. He got headlocked that one time, but a lot of times he's been snapping guys right onto his foot, and which has created some problems. He's doing all that work without and actually giving them a shot in some ways. So trying to snap somebody down, trying to get your feet out of the way. I think that's where the foot movement and that stuff comes in, right? If I'm trying to be able to move that, if you're going to snap somebody, you got to make sure that they're not coming down on your own foot.
Hall keeps trying to go in for the single leg, can't get there.
Just a good scramble position. Carlson with an attempt to get in at the leg, and Hall does a nice job of countering right away and trying to spin around the corner, which I think is one of the things he does really well. He's quick in the turn.
Hall not really allowing Carlson to get in for a shot. He's trying now. Hall went in for the double. Carlson's got the underhook, going for the single leg.
He's got that front headlock, right, and he's trying to pull Hall forward. He almost got to the corner, but both guys seem to be pretty good at working that spin when you're in that tight spot. And that's the end of almost to the end of the period.
I'm a little surprised this one's gone scoreless this long, Tony. I'll be honest with you.
I don't. They're both really good, right? So they're not giving up a lot of space. They're not giving. They warned him for stalling on that. I don't understand.
Peyton Hall got the stall warning.
I don't understand that at all. I just don't.
Well, we said Carlson is a transfer from Minnesota, and they dairy farm a lot in Minnesota. Cael Carlson comes from a family of dairy farmers. Carlson Dairy has been around since 1891 in Minnesota, and when Cael graduates, he wants to be a 5th-generation farmer. There he is with one of their 1,800 Holsteins on their Minnesota farm. 5th generation of farmers. That's incredible stuff. Yes, they only increased the farm from 30 to 60 back in 1979. So they've managed to grow exponentially since then.
I don't know. I'm trying to watch this and why. I'm trying to figure out why Hall got called for stalling anyway. They're both kind of going at one another. Carlson's reached for his leg a couple of different times. Nothing that's really that you would say is a shot. It's just to sort of get in there a little bit.
Yeah, I have a really hard time seeing how one of these two is stalling over the other.
Yes, you're right. Nobody has scored yet. Peyton
takes a shot in the leg.
Right? You could see that Hall really tried to stuff his head down there. Carlson
They want the 2 at the Coliseum.
There's no takedown yet, right?
They want the 3 at the Coliseum, and there's no scoring yet.
So what happened?
The escape point for Carlson earlier.
Now what's happened is that
and they're working on the shoulders. Carlson working on the leg.
Hall trying to hook that leg and drive through it is what he's going to try to do. Now he's coming down on his hip. And that he's just holding on to the one leg. And
Tim Flynn is on the floor. There's
the final.
There's the 3-point takedown. That took a very long time to get there.
Well, you know, it is going to take time. The thing you run the risk of when you're the guy on top is he going to call a stalemate before I get to the point where I get the points?
All doing a lot of work.
Well, there's an end of the second period.
Yeah.
That was a heck of a scramble. I think both guys went through, expended a lot of energy in that situation. So Hall goes up around the waist, and that's the sort of the mistake Dowling made earlier. So now you give him the whizzer, and now this becomes a lot harder, right? He's still on the inside of the knee, and so he's trying to go out that way. We see Carlson just trying to scramble off of that from that side of it, and eventually Hall ends up stepping around the corner and getting himself that takedown.
So against the dairy farmer, it was Hall who had the better moves. You like that one, Tony?
Wow. Wow. Wow.
Escape point for Peyton Hall.
So 4-1, there's only 18 seconds of riding time. Probably not really going to be much of a factor. So the challenge is Hall already has a warning for stalling, right?
Yeah.
And
takes a shot.
Is not a very good shot. Carlson does a nice job of countering it, trying to get to the corner.
Carlson got his feet around on Hall.
And now we're in the same position, only opposite, right?
Carlson's put himself in a bad position.
This is going to be a fall.
Hall is about to get the pin they wanted at the Coliseum. Can Hall finish him? Yes, he does! Peyton Hall pins Cael Carlson in the third period. Much to the delight of the Mountaineer faithful.
Well, just a nice job by Hall. They were in the same thing in the exact opposite position, right? And what you saw was Peyton Hall just step over the top of him, put Carlson on his back.
One misstep for Carlson.
Well, here Peyton does his shot. You see this situation. Carlson tries to go around the corner, and he puts his arm around the waist. And here's Peyton Hall with the whizzer. And then Peyton Hall really just knocks him over and steps over the top eventually. Carlson loses balance a little bit. And I got to tell you, when you're down there in that spot, there's not a lot you can do, and there's eventually a fall.